Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Managing data access across teams and workspace in Databricks could be a nightmare. But what if there was a single place to govern it all? Whether you are working with Delta Lake or ML models, without proper data governance, your data becomes a liability. That's where Unity Catalog comes in. So, which is basically a Databricks unified solution to manage data permissions, lineage, and auditing all in one place, right? So, in this video, we will break down what Unity Catalog is, why it was needed, how is it different from Hive Metastore, and how it changes how you manage and secure data on Databricks. So, stick around till the end because this will be the foundation for upcoming demo videos. And before we start, I would highly recommend checking my channel AI to Deutsch. Here you can go through this video where I have discussed the theory of Delta Lake. So some of the things are repeated in this video, and if you watch this video it will make things more clear. So I would highly recommend watching this at least. And this was the practical video based on Delta Lake, and here we discussed about dbutils and dbfs. Okay, so now let's coming back to Unity Catalog. So let's understand what Unity Catalog is. So Unity Catalog is a centralized governance solution that works with the Databricks platform. Okay, it helps you manage your data assets such as tables, views, volumes, and ML models by organizing both structured and unstructured data, securing them with fine-grained access control, helping in discovering through data search and lineage tracking, auditing, which tells you basically who is accessing the data, right? And it is basically a step ahead of your Hive Metastore, and it makes easier to categorize and manage your data. Okay, so now let's break this down, okay, to understand this in more detail. So let's understand first what actually governance means. So in simple terms, governance means applying rules and policies and controls to keep a system organized, secure, and compliant. Okay, so you are just applying few rules and policies. And what is a data governance? It is about setting rules for your data. So different rules like how it is going to be accessed, who is going to access this, and the quality of the data, security, so how it is tracked. So you are basically applying some rules to your data, which is your data governance. Okay, and in Unity Catalog, governance is implemented through access control, right? So you are controlling basically the access of your data, and auditing, then data lineage, compliance, and metadata management. Okay, so why is governance important? Because it gives you security, it prevents data from theft or misuse. Trust, right, builds confidence in data accuracy. And compliance, meet legal and regulatory requirements. Efficiency, keeps data well organized so it's easy to search and use. Without governance, basically there will be data chaos, anyone can access anything, right? There is definitely, if anybody is accessing anything, then there is a security risk also. Sensitive data might get leaked. Legal issues like not following data laws can lead to fines or penalties. Confusion, like you don't know where your data is and who is using, right? That's why governance is important, and this governance is taken care by Unity Catalog. That's why we say Unity Catalog is a centralized governance solution that works with Databricks platform. Okay, so now let's understand what is a workspace. So a Databricks workspace is a virtual environment within a Databricks platform. Okay, think of it like a office space where your specific team work together. Okay, so it is basically a logical boundary that contains your notebooks. Okay, and in your notebook you are basically writing code in Python or SQL, Scala, right? So, and clusters. So now we know we need cluster to, if we want to run anything in our notebook, then we need a cluster, right? So cluster is basically the computing resource to run your code written in your notebooks, right? Then data assets, which is nothing but your tables and schema and volumes, right, linked to the metastore. And users and their permission, so everything combined is basically your workspace, right? So don't get confused with this workspace where you have only notebook, but Workspace is basically consists of all of these things, right? And don't think like workspace is only is schema or table, right? But so workspace is not only schema and table, right? Schema and tables are the data structure organized within a meta store. Okay, meta store like Unity Catalog or Hive Meta Store. So a workspace is the environment where you access, query, and manipulate these data assets using SQL commands, right, inside your notebook. A single workspace can access multiple schema and table depending on how it is connected to the meta store. Okay, so if I show you one diagram, so here if we go to the official documentation of the Unity catalog, you can go through this documentation, but I'm going to talk about this diagram here. So without Unity catalog, we have one Databricks workspace here, another workspace here, and inside each workspace we have their own meta store, user management, compute, right? But with Unity catalog, now the workspace, we have different workspace, but the user management and meta store is now shared among all the workspace. Okay, we will again come back to this diagram. So now let's come back again here. So Unity Catalog makes it better. How? Unity Catalog provides centralized governance across multiple workspace by using a shared meta store and a three-level namespace: catalog, schema, and table. Okay, so it is a centralized governance across multiple workspaces. So that's what we have seen here: multiple workspaces, centralized governance across multiple workspace. Okay, by using a shared meta store. So and this was your shared meta store where you will keep basically the metadata, right? And a three-level namespace: catalog.schema.table. So yeah, we will talk about this in a while. Okay, so this, what does this mean? This means one meta store can manage data for multiple workspace. You can centralize permission auditing and data tracking. Data is easier to secure, organize, and govern. Okay, problem with Hive meta store was each workspace had their own separate meta store. That's what we see here. Each workspace had their own meta store, right? Separate meta store, and that means they have their own metadata in different locations, right? So metadata, permissions, and governance has to be managed individually for each workspace, right? Because meta store contains your metadata, right? So and now each workspace has their own meta store, so that's why the metadata, permissions, and governance had to manage individually for each workspace. Inconsistencies, more work, and no central control, right? So it's like both the workspace are independent. So if you want to talk between these two workspace, that is difficult, right? But now with this Unity catalog, you can easily say that okay, meta store is common, so all the workspace is basically having this shared meta store, and it makes it easier for all the workspace to communicate among each other, right? So that is one benefit with Unity catalog. Okay, so metastore, the metastore is the top level container in Unity catalog where all metadata is stored. This includes data assets and their permissions. Each cloud region has its own metastore. So inside one region we can have only one metastore. Okay, and multiple Databricks workspace can connect to the same metastore. For example, if your company has data in both US and EU region, you will have basically two metastore, one for US region, another for EU region. Okay, and before continuing, let me show you another diagram here. Unity catalog object model. Okay, so metastore is the top level, right? That's what we have written here. The metastore is the top level container in Unity catalog. Okay, so this is your top level container here, and inside this metastore we have catalog, schema, and then tables, views, volumes, and functions. Okay, so this makes it like a three level namespace. Like, so whenever you have to access this table, you have to define like catalog dot schema dot table, right? So that's what it was written here: three level namespace, catalog dot schema dot table. Okay, why it is important we will see in a while. So your catalog is a high level container inside the meta store. It groups together schemas and is typically used to organize by environment like dev environment or production environment, or you can also have use catalog as like a team catalog or a business unit catalog. For example, you can have like sales catalog where you will keep all the data related to only sales, right? And we can have a marketing catalog or different kind of catalogs like to segregate the data. So that is where catalog comes in handy. And schema exists within a catalog and contains objects like tables, views, volume, function, right? It provides a logical grouping often for a project or department. For example, inside sales catalog you might have order schema and customer schema. So these all belongs to the sales catalog, right? Tables, views, we already know. Table is like store structured data which can have CSV or Parquet files in it and in Delta Lake format. Views is virtual table created by SQL queries. Volume is basically your unstructured data like images, PDFs in cloud storage. Okay, so inside your order schema you might have order table, order summary which is a view, or invoice PDF which is a volume, right? We have two kind of storage location: managed storage and external storage. So if you have watched my previous videos, then in the previous video we talked about managed table and external tables, right? So this is also similar. So managed storage is basically Unity catalog automatically stores data in default location defined at the metastore catalog or schema level. External storage is you link your own cloud storage. Okay, so how it is linked, if you have to like compare it with external table and managed table, whenever we used to create external table we used to define a location. In that location we used to specify a S3 path. This is that path where you want your delta files to be stored. That was your external table. Similarly, external storage is you link your own cloud storage, right? And managed table was, it was all taken care by Databricks, and all the data and metadata was stored in the managed table, so you don't specify the location basically, right? So here in managed storage is like Unity catalog automatically stores data in default location. Okay, so for example, S3 my bucket dev could be a managed location. So you basically define a managed location. Let's see, we will see this in a while. So now access control. So Unity catalog provides fine grained access control at various level: catalog, schema, table, or even rows and column. Okay, so you can use SQL based grant or revoke command for Databricks UI to manage permissions. So basically with Unity catalog, no doubt we can control it based on catalog level or schema or table level, but it is also possible to control the access of data in row and column level as well. Okay, for example, so here we are granting select on this catalog, schema, this table. So we are granting select on this table to data analytics group. Okay, so only this group can have access to select, like basically, yeah, this permission to this table. Okay, so this is how you are basically controlling the access to your data, which makes it secure, right? Then another benefit which is there for Unity catalog is lineage and auditing. Okay, so Unity catalog tracks data usage through lineage, showing how data is used and transformed. It also keeps audit logs of every action, like who accessed or modified what data and when, right? So if someone queries the order table, Unity catalog will log who ran the query, when it ran, and what they queried. Okay, so this is your lineage and auditing. Okay, which makes it basically secure. Lineage is basically is helping you discover like how this data model was created, right? Because here we saw like workspace are now all interlinked, right, to the same metastore. So all the metadata of all the workspace is now at the same location at this metastore, right? So it is easy to create a lineage. Like suppose you created one table, and how that table was created, what is the source, and then what happened, finally how this table was made, right? So it's kind of a tree diagram kind of thing. Okay, so and this is just showing how you can enable Unity catalog. Of course we will see this in our demo, but here I'm just writing it just to give a brief. Okay, so we go to Databricks UI, open the account console, click Unity Catalog. So once it is enabled, then we create our meta store. Okay, we will see this in our demo session for sure. So, and to set a managed storage location where Unity Catalog will store its data, right? For example, we are setting this managed storage location, right? This meta store will act as a central metadata store and can share across multiple workspace. Yeah, this we are now already, we understand this line now, right? So creating a meta store, so a meta store is created for a specific region as we discussed, and multiple workspace can use it. Yeah. uh, so create meta store, the name of the meta store with location this. So basically this command sets up a centralized metadata store and all managed data will be stored in this location. Don't get confused with this location, because you might think like whenever we give location we call it as external, right? But here why we are calling it managed, because here we are just defining our location for just initializing the location where we want to store our managed data. Okay, so in, and then once this path is defined, it is used by Unity Catalog on its own. So you don't control the folder which is going to be created inside this. This is just the initial location which is you are defining. Okay, I want my metadata and manage table data whatever in this location. Okay, so this storage path is used for all the table, volume and other data sets managed by Unity Catalog. Okay, key point: centralized metadata in Unity Catalog. In Unity Catalog, meta store act as a centralized repository where metadata for all table is stored, whether the table are managed or external. It does not matter. Even if the actual data for external table is stored outside Unity Catalog, like in your own S3 or ADLS bucket, but the metadata control, like the schema, permissions, and location, is fully stayed within Unity Catalog. Okay, so let's say you create 5 tables across 5 different catalogs. Okay, so even though the actual data of these tables could be spread across different location, right, because depending on if it is a managed or external table, the metadata for all of them will be stored in one place, right? The meta store which you created for your reason, basically this one, my meta store. Okay, this centralized design helps with consistent governance, simplified auditing, efficient metadata search, cross workspace sharing, right? And then you create a catalog, right? Here we created a meta store, then you create a catalog which is basically created to organize data by environment or business unit, which we already discussed, right? So you are creating a catalog inside this managed location. Okay, so managed location specify where the data for managed table inside this catalog will be physically stored. Okay, in this case here, right? So this is your meta store which you created here, my bucket unity, and here you are defining this dev catalog, so which specifies where the data for managed tables inside this catalog will be stored. Okay, this setup ensures that all table and volume created under dev catalog will store their data in the specified S3 path while the metadata stays in the centralized meta store. Okay, then you create a schema. So create schema, and basically you are saying inside this dev catalog create my order schema, right? Then in, we have a table, then you say create table. So you also define catalog, then schema, and then table name. Okay, so you have to follow this 3 level in Unity Catalog. Okay, and yeah, using delta we are creating a table. Creating a volume, again create a volume basically for your unstructured data, then catalog, schema, and your volume. And for access control we set permissions, right? So we are saying here, which is basically your fine grained access, right? So grant select on this catalog, schema, table to data analyst group, and grant all privilege on this volume to data engineer group. So like this you can set up different access controls to restrict your access, data access. Then check data lineage. We already discussed the lineage, right? How this data was created, Audit logs, every read and write operation, permission, everything you do on your data will be logged, right? So you can check, describe history, and if you do select star from this audit, system access audit, where event type was select, object ID is this one, then you will get all the audit logs, right? These features are crucial for security, compliance, and data trust. I hope now this makes sense. Right, now let's see a quick difference between Unity Catalog and Hive Metastore. Okay, so in terms of governance, Hive Metastore provides a basic governance. Unity Catalog, advanced and centralized governance. Namespace, we have only two namespace in Hive Metastore, schema and table, while in Unity Catalog we also have catalog, so three level: catalog, schema, and table. Permissions, limited, mostly table level, but here we have fine grained, right? Because we can go till row and column level as well. Lineage and auditing, not built in data lineage and audit logs. Unstructured data support, not supported in Hive Metastore, but it is supported in Unity Catalog, right? Because we can create volumes. Cross workspace sharing, no, because we already saw like each workspace has their own metastore and they are not linked. But here it is possible because of the shared metastore, right? Why should you switch to Unity Catalog? Better security, right? Centralized governance, unstructured data support, audit, and lineage, right? Now I hope it is clear. Advantage of three level namespace. So when we define this three level, what is the advantage of that? The biggest advantage of three level namespace is better organization, scalability, and governance of your data, right? So when we say better organization and isolation, because with Unity Catalog you can create separate catalogs, right? Again, I'm writing the same line. Now we know, right? If we have a different business unit or different dev environment or production environment or different teams, you can separate data on those teams or environment based on this catalog, and each catalog can have their own managed storage location which keeps data physically shared, right? This makes it easy to organize and manage data. So yeah, it just I'm repeating, just it's a repeated line which we already discussed, right? Problem with Hive Metastore, because Hive Metastore only supports a two level structure, schema and table, right? There is no catalog in Hive Metastore, so we have only schema and table. So all data, whether it is from your production environment or development environment, had to be forced into the same schema level, okay, using the naming conventions like dev order or production order, right? So this approach could be messy and dependent on human discipline, right? Because here we are dependent on this just the name, right? Dev and prod, which is basically error prone, right? Easy to be missed or interchanged, right? There was no clear separation, so mistakes like querying dev data in production or vice versa were common. Hive Metastore, what was the problem? You create a database, suppose order schema is there, one schema, but now you need two orders table, but and one for dev and prod, but you only have to dependent on this dev and prod to distinguish between these two orders, right? So the schema is same, but only you are distinguishing between these orders based on this dev and prod prefix. And centralized governance across workspace, yeah, I think now we have talked about this many times already. So centralized governance across workspace because your metastore is shared. Scalability for large organizations. Three level namespace in Unity Catalog is highly scalable, right? For large organization because it organizes data in a hierarchical structure. So each business unit, so we have 10 business unit, each of them can have their own catalog and have their own data. So easy to scale, right? This hierarchical design supports clean separation, easier data discovery, better governance, especially important when you are dealing with large teams and complex data environment, right? Problem with Hive Metastore only supports a two level namespace. In large organization, this can lead to naming conflict because there is no higher level grouping like catalog. Okay, fine grained access control, we already know. Problem with Hive Metastore only allows you to set permission schema level or table level. Since there is no catalog concept, you have to assign permission individually to each schema. Okay, you have 10 schema, you have to set permission for 10 times. This is time consuming, error prone. Yeah, okay. So support for modern features, volume, we have modern features like, okay, unstructured data, right? PDF, image. So you create a volume inside this catalog and schema. And yeah, you can check the lineage. We describe history auditing by going to this, querying this table. So in Hive Metastore, we don't have unstructured data, right? So that was also one problem in Hive Metastore, right? Because we saw here unstructured data is not supported in Hive Metastore, so you have to basically keep it separately in your S3 bucket, right? So some of the best practices: you can use clear naming convention, set fine-grained permissions, right? Follow the least privilege principle, grant only access that necessary, organized folder structure, regular audit logs, and take data backups. Regularly backup your managed storage to avoid data loss. You can automate backup using tools like AWS backup or custom jobs. Okay, and there was one more screenshot which I wanted to just share. Now you will understand this very easily. So in legacy we have this Hive Metastore. Inside this Hive Metastore we have this schema, different schemas. Each schema can have multiple tables, and then you have another Hive Metastore having schema and table. So there was no link in between them, but in Unity Catalog now we have another level of catalog, and now this meta store is basically a common meta store. Here the meta store is different, right? So yeah, but now I think this diagram is clear. So this is what I wanted to show you. So with this, now we have come to an end of our this little theory video of Unity Catalog. In our next video we are going to set up this Unity Catalog in our Databricks, and for that we are not going to work on community edition anymore. So we are going to have our own Databricks account. We will see everything in our next demo session. So yeah, stay tuned, and I hope you guys like this video. And so if this was useful, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more upcoming videos related to data engineering. Soon we are going to upload videos on data scientist role as well. So yeah, stay tuned, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Bye.